All right, ladies and gentlemen, the chair of the elections committee, Peggy De Silva.
Thank you. Okay, we are here doing meet and greet of candidates. Share your thoughts. One of the wonderful things about the Sierra Club is that it is democratic, that it is led by volunteers, that we elect our volunteers all the way from our group level as our ex-com leaders at the group up to the board of directors at the national level of the club. In our elections, we elect these leaders and we also make some bylaws changes if we have bylaws changes for any of our groups or the chapter. So all the information that we're sharing, and we encourage you to go there frequently and enjoy it, is on our chapter elections webpage, which is embedded within the chapter website. There's lots of information that, you know, and you can always send us elections@sfbasc.org questions if you have any, okay? This is what our chapter looks like in terms of its executive system, so that we have a chapter executive committee, we have regional group executive committees, and we have 8 regional groups. So you can see that the chapter has 4 seats up for the blank dots up for election this year. There are 5 at-large elected chapter ex-com members who are seated presently, carrying on till next year. And then there are 8 members that are not directly elected by the members to the chapter, but they are appointed by the group ex-coms, and we do directly elect our group ex-coms. So those you can have some say in also. So for example, we have, let's just look for a minute at our Southern Alameda County group, which is right here in the lower, it's kind of a brownish color. And Matt and Glenn are here from Southern Alameda County. They are running for 2 open seats. That group has 5 executive committee seats. And you'll see that some of all the clear dots open at the top are even numbered seats, and the ones on the lower level row are the odd numbered seats. We would like to see all those odd numbered ones filled in. It is sort of a need to engage more people in being involved in our chapter in leadership, that some of these lower level dots are not filled in, you know, that they're open still, that they have vacancies in their executive committees. Okay, all right. These are our 2022 candidates for groups and chapter. Many of you are here. Thank you so much for stepping up and being willing to take on the challenging, and I hear sometimes fun and sometimes painful work of being a chapter or a group executive committee member. We have several of these folks here, but if people turned in candidate statements and photos to us, those will also be posted. So we'll have, you know, this slide show up for people to learn about you. We'll have the candidate statements and photos on the website with, if you wish, contact information so members can contact you and say, hey, let's talk about this. And we also will be doing other things throughout the season of elections to hopefully to help people know about you and what you believe in and why they should vote for you. Okay, so we're going to do candidate statements now. So chapter candidates, Mari, Sol, Nick, are you here? Nick may not be here yet. Oh, Nick is here. Okay. Mari, Sol, Nick, Phillip, and Matt. Those are our 4 candidates for chapter. We're going to give you each 2 minutes each to talk about what we asked you to talk about was what you think is important about work that we need to do here in our chapter for the environment, for the good of the community, how you would like to see, how you can see you as a chapter ex-com member helping to build the movement and build more engagement of more members. We have 30,000 members in our chapter, and of course, not so many of them are very active. So building involvement, that we'd like to know how you would think of doing that. And we'd also like to know how can you help with the administrative and executive role of making the chapter ex-com meetings go well and the functioning of the ex-com go well. So I'm happy to take any one of you that wishes to go first, and then we'll call on the others. And Pam is going to time your 2 minutes. Who wants to be brave? Or should I just call you? All right, Marisol, you're first.
Okay, I get us. All righty. I'm just going to read my statement first and then just kind of expound on some of the questions you were suggested, proposed. So protecting our environment has been a personal passion since college when I became involved in forest restoration projects and learned firsthand how human behavior directly impacts our ecosystem. During this time, I made a personal commitment to reduce my carbon footprint by switching to a vegetarian, then vegan diet for now 23 years. I've upheld these values in my leadership roles by backing and passing many bold climate initiatives, such as the California Green New Deal, protecting the Brentwood Urban Limit Line, the Environmental and Climate Crisis Council platform, and by helping to organize the first ever Labor Climate Convergence and Labor Climate Task Force in Contra Costa County, which I currently co-chair on behalf of our environmental groups across the Bay Area to create more green jobs. When I ran for state senate, I was the only candidate who did not accept fossil fuel developer or corporate money. Now, as the DSRSD vice president, I seek to conserve water reliability and supply. As your chapter leader, I also gave visibility to racial and social justice issues. As your at-large executive committee member, I will continue to protect our open spaces, facilitate our transition to renewable energy, generate more green jobs, encourage smart cities and smart growth, and create more diversity, equity, and inclusion within the Sierra Club. I will put my background in molecular cell biology, my passion for protecting the environment and natural resources, and proven leadership to work for future generations. And then shifting over to what you said, how would I work within the chapter and what I think needs some of the things that we need to work on. I personally believe that we have a lot of great ideas. We have a lot of skilled people who are very, very knowledgeable, passionate about the issues of the environment. And I think that sometimes we may get lost in the nuanced working together. Sometimes the personalities are not, everybody has a different personalities. And sometimes, oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Maybe, Pam, I wonder, is there a way to give people a 10-second or 15-second warning? I'm not sure. If there is, you could do that. Marisol and everybody else, you're totally welcome to read your statement if you wish, but do remember that that will go on the website, so people will be able to see that. So if you are short of time, you can maybe paraphrase that or whatever, and then go on to saying things so you won't run out of time. Okay,
yeah.
How about, let's see, just randomly, Phillip, next. Where's Phillip? There he is. You have to unmute, Phillip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm sometimes accused of speaking too quietly, so that's just an extreme example of that. Hi, I'm Phillip Davis. I'm running for an at-large seat on the chapter executive committee. My personal history is that I've worked for 40 years on ways to reduce the contribution of buildings to global warming. I believe the highest priority for the Sierra Club is to intensify its fight against climate change by further advancing concrete measures to ramp down the use of fossil fuels. A particular challenge for us in the Bay Area is to ensure that public funds for the decarbonization of homes through insulation and solar energy are distributed equitably. I think we in the club can engage more people by collaborating with existing community groups to strengthen our impact. If we are outward facing and effective, we should be able to draw people into the club and its activities. We just have to be respectful and working together and be friendly one-on-one. And finally, with regard to the XCOM, in the chapter XCOM meetings in particular, I think members can improve the effectiveness of the group by reminding each other and indeed ourselves why we are here, particularly in this time of existential crisis. And I think new members in particular can support the chair by playing firm but civil roles in helping to reduce squabbles and grandstanding in meetings and avoiding getting sucked into old procedural disputes. So I think that's probably most of my 2 minutes there. So
10 seconds.
Thank you, Philip. Thank
when
you.
the time comes.
Okay, let's see, Nick and then Matt.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can make you see me too. 1 minute, one moment. See. Whoop, that's not right. Okay, can you see me now?
I can see you, Nick.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I'm in the car joining right after work. So, and so this is going to be extemporaneous as well. So priorities for the chapter or group. It's all about climate change. It's all about climate action against climate change. So to me, it's fighting, reducing and removing all uses of fossil fuels. And yes, I am in a plug-in hybrid. And I got charged up so I can get home all electric. But yeah, there's no reason we shouldn't be pushing full speed ahead for electrification and banning gas. And that should be accelerated as much as possible. As far as other priorities, the chapter and the groups both kind of take up issues as they come, depending on what volunteers come up with and what the chapter is working on. A couple of things that are interesting to me are the no coal in Oakland and the Oakland Airport expansion that comes up in my NAC group. But we end up doing a lot of things, including political work. So that's all important and all priorities. But my passions are in reducing electrification and making sure that we have equitable transit, that people who want to take transit and walk and bike get around safely. The next item was attracting people to the club. I think we know what we need to do, but there's not always a volunteer time to do this. Making sure that we get out and involve ourselves in other groups, also doing climate work or also doing environmental work is very important. And therefore, and in so doing, we can probably attract more people to the club. So I'd like to see more of that. And in terms of chapter meetings, one of the things that I do in my group, I've done when I lead meetings is start using a timer. And that has become really effective at normalizing and being fair to everyone so no one monopolizes the conversation. So those are a lot of topics to cover in 2 minutes, but hopefully I did a little bit of justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, Matt, hello.
Hi, and thank you for hosting this, Peggy. And I appreciate Philip and Nick and Marisol. I think they both, everybody's hit on the number one problem, of course, is climate change. And it's good that we've got representative just in people that are planning to be on the XCOM here. We've got people dealing with housing, dealing with transportation, dealing with water. I think those are the key things that we have to deal with. Now, I've started my time with the Sierra Club 20 years ago, and we've done very well in East County, Eastern Alameda County, in terms of stopping sprawl. And so now we've kind of got the flip side. We've got a unique area where at the Bay Area where we've been able to preserve a lot of open space, but the bad side effect of stopping sprawl is that we've increased the cost of housing. I know I come from Pleasanton, where we end up having a lot of $1 million homes and not houses for workers. So I think the big challenge for the Sierra Club in the Bay Area is to really work and find housing that's affordable for workers and for frontline communities and people that are being priced out of the Bay Area, and then everything flows from that, because then we can reduce the carbon footprints. We can build walkable communities. We can put resources where people need them. And the good thing about COVID is that we've learned that people can look at different ways of work, which people have had ideas like that for a long time, and COVID showed we can make it a reality, or people don't need to commute to an office to go to work. That there are a lot of jobs that can be done just as effectively remotely as we're doing tonight. So I think that's the real key. in terms of the effectiveness of the chapter, I think the chapter and the groups, I think there really has to be a lot of education about what the national policies are. And I think that's my key reason for going on the Sierra Club, is just really to dig into national policy, make sure that we're implementing that on the local level. And then everybody understands what the national policies are. So we're kind of all on the same page when we start to look at different strategies for how we can be effective and bring people into the Bay Area or into the Bay chapter. So thank you. 2 minutes. I always have more to say.
Matt. Thank you, Matt. So we'd like to take a little pause here from candidate statements, just sort of to break it up, and then we'll have all the group ones. But I'd like to give a chance for everybody here to share thoughts and comments for, I think we said 5 minutes. Is that good? 5 minutes or so of open season. Anybody who has a thought or a comment or a question to share with any of our chapter candidates, please raise up your hand and go forward. Don't be shy. I see Matt.
Hey, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a Zoom trick with some background slideshow stuff here. You know, one of the things I would like to talk about and get the regional chapter talking about is what's actually happening in the Sierras. I mean, we are the Sierra Club, and most folks are actually blissfully unaware of how bad the Western Slope is these days. If you do a flyover, or if you actually dive in with some satellite imagery, you can see that much of the Western Slope outside of our national parks or wildernesses has been devastated by Sierra Pacific Industries and by the wildfires, and also by the way the replanting has been done. That there's clone ponderosa pine monoculture and not mixed healthy forest, and I see this kind of missing as a major component of what the club's been working on. And if folks could actually go out and see what's actually happening, I think they might be shocked into action, because there's a lot that needs to be done. Anyway, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Do any of our chapter candidates want to respond to that briefly? And then I see that Peter has his hand up. Also next, then.
I just wanted to say, I got my start in working in environmental issues over headwaters back in the day. And I remember the big thing that shocked me was that, when you're driving up 101 and you're going through the redwoods, it seems like you're in the middle of this big forest, but then you look at a satellite photo, and what happens is the logging companies come through and they cut everything except for what's near the highway, so people can't see the devastation. So I think I totally agree with Matt, and I think forest management, I've heard there's some enormous amount, I think it's something like 60% or something. There's a large amount of the forest in California is all managed by the federal government and under the state government. And I think we can be more effective if we get plugged into plans on how to do reforestation. And it's particularly important right now because of after the wildfires has come through, there needs to be plans to reforest. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's see if any of the other chapter candidates have a response, and then we'll go to Peter, and then we'll go on to the group candidates. Marisol, Nick, or Philip, anything to say about Matt's point?
Yeah, just one thought that clearly there was consensus among us about the importance of trying to address climate change. And now we have this other issue, which is clearly also, I think, resonates with all of us. And so hopefully the chapter in particular is big enough that there would be enough people to bring a lot of energy and activity to each of these two issues. So they shouldn't be in competition. And hopefully we can find a way to, have multiple balls in the air and achieve multiple objectives.
Okay. All right. Marisol, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, do we have to continue the same line of conversation, or can we bring up our own ideas?
Right now, can you respond to what Matt brought up? And then we're going to let Peter ask his question. And then after the group ones do, then it's going to be open, bring up more things.
Oh, okay. I'll wait then. I'll wait.
Okay, okay. Let's see, Nick, did you have anything to say about Matt's point?
No, other than maybe just that there are a bunch of chapters in California, and working with the chapters that are in the Sierras is probably important to understand, you know, what we can do here to help them fight clear cutting and other abuses that are happening.
Yeah, good point. Okay. One more question from the group and then we'll go, or from the participants here, and then we'll go to the group candidates. Peter Belden. Peter, you
Thank
want to
you.
introduce yourself if anybody doesn't
Sure.
know you?
Yeah, I'm Peter Belden. I live in San Francisco. I recently became chair of the Transportation Committee in San Francisco. And first, thank you all for running. I mean, just we're all volunteering, you're volunteering, and you're doing leadership positions and all to save the planet. So really just thank you for doing that. My little question today is about bike lanes. They won't solve all of our environmental problems, but they're one little piece of it that I love. And so I'm just curious to hear about how important you feel that is to make biking safer and to encourage it as part of an overall climate strategy, and any steps you may have taken in your past volunteering to advocate for that.
Okay. Let's see. Marisol didn't say anything last time. Do you want to say something this time, Marisol?
So I'm actually, this is something that where I live in San Ramon, we're still working very hard to make sure it's safe to ride your bike here. Honestly, I think it's terrifying. We have bike lanes, but they're so narrow. They're not even really marked. And people are flying at up to 60 miles per hour past these bikers. It's just frightening, frankly. I would rather have either we widen the bike lanes and make sure they're also clearly marked, and or create a designated, you know, some space that's off. I feels like it's a freeway because they drive so fast. It's just not safe. And we also have to make sure that these bike lanes are contiguous with, like, for example, in San Ramon, we don't even have our downtown fully informed, you know, but making sure that looking forward, we have a downtown core that's going to really, where it encourages people, makes it easier for them actually to get to their destinations. Right now, everything is very far away, and we have a lot of work to making sure we bring the highly frequented businesses closer in proximity to encourage the use of bikes and also walking.
Thank you. Okay, Matt and then Nick.
Well, I think Nick was before me, but
Oh, okay, Nick first then. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, this is a question near and dear to my heart, and thank you for it. And that's where, when I talked about transportation equity, that's what I meant. Is it's got to feel as safe and convenient and as easy for people who want to walk and bike and scoot, or, you know, anything, take transit, as it is for those who drive. And so we've got a long, long way to go. And bike lanes, when you're right next to moving, 2-ton motor vehicles, does not feel good and safe, and it's not going to get people out to ride. So bike lanes that are protected, better yet, separated bike ways, paths, all of that needs to happen. And there's so much more that needs to happen so that we can make it so that people will choose, if they want to, choose that way that's more environmentally friendly. And so, yeah, thanks again for the question.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Matt?
yeah, thanks for the question. I back about 30 years ago, I used to bike Niles Canyon regularly, and the trip back from Niles to Pleasanton, was crazy because the breakdown lane in some spots is like 2 inches, and you're going along with that was when the traffic on Niles was really starting to get heavy. And so I can relate to being on an unprotected, slower moving bicycle while cars are flying by at 50 miles an hour is disconcerting. I just want to point out that I saw on Twitter somebody had posted this whole idea of, so we're going to electric vehicles. There's a big focus on electric vehicles, but they're still vehicles. And so they did a comparison. Somebody had shown a picture of Paris where they're actually dedicating lanes and streets for pedestrians and bikes, and they're making that a priority. And they're saying the problem is, and I think they were talking about Manhattan, they're instead setting aside space for big electric SUVs. And so I think that's the thing, you have to make a commitment that biking and walking is good on so many levels, and you don't have to recharge anything. It's healthy for you, but we need to make it safe. And it's just a decision that needs to be done. There just needs to be the political will to set aside streets and lanes for bicycles and pedestrians. And I think that's another thing that came out in COVID, when people were all at home and couldn't go out, that there started to be a way to set aside little spaces like that. And I think that should continue, but certainly it's going to take political will, because everybody that drives a car is going to be mad when there's a lane that goes away and they're in a bottleneck. So I think it's all, it's really work. And I'll finish with this, but we are at the cusp of, really deciding the way civilization is going to go. I mean, this is a first time in human history I read where the people are actually going to make the decision on the way human history is going to go at this moment in time. And that's never happened before. And so I think these are a lot of things that require political will, and they also require solidarity and partnerships and building relationships. So I think it's exciting and a scary time. So thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
question.
Matt. Okay, quickly then, let's see. Matt spoke. We didn't hear from Philip on this one, and then we'll move on to the group people. Philip, did you want to add anything to that, or?
Yes, very, very quickly. And first, I'm embarrassed to say is I can't find the place on the interface to raise my hand, but never mind, let's not waste time.
Just
on that.
wave. It's okay.
I'm also a cyclist, and I live in Berkeley, and Berkeley is making some efforts, not which cause a lot of discussion, shall we say, about how to segregate bikes from cars. And I did have a vacation in the Netherlands a couple of years ago, where pretty much every street of any significance, there's actually a physical curb between the bike lanes and the cars, and indeed between the bikes and the pedestrians. And so that's, I think, something that we should be trying to move towards in the future. I mean, obviously there's all sorts of issues around that. We don't want to get into discussing that now, but I certainly something that's of strong interest to me, having been hit several times on my bike.
Thank you. Well, I think I actually see that Brian has his hand up, and Brian, I was going to call on you first as a group candidate. Just making an administrative decision here, not only because I live in San Francisco, but we'll do a little round the bay. So we're going to start with San Francisco. We'll go to Marin. We'll go to West Contra Costa. I don't think anybody's here from there. Diablo, Tri-Valley, Sac, Nac, right? This will be our group. It'll be our group rotation. So as we said, we're going to start with the group candidates being able to have sort of a minute to give their quick thing. Everybody go, and then we'll just have questions, conversation as we wish. Does that sound all right to everybody? Pam or Scott, do I have any more slides that I need to show? Let's see. Let me see.
Not right now, no.
Not right now. No. Okay.
Peggy, I was actually going to ask a question like, yeah, kind of sort of, but I mean, I can drop my hands on that one then if I'm going to go up.
Hey, Brian, go ahead and just like weave it all in.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. This is not the candidate statement that I make. This is a question as a follow-up to.
Oh, why don't you save your question?
Oh,
till we
save
get
the
all the
question.
candidate statements, because then we're going to come back to more
okay.
questions. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So
No worries.
tell us about you and all the good things you're doing and why we should vote for you in San Francisco.
I'm Brian Reyes, and I've lived here in San Francisco since 2007. Imported or export from Southern California, and love the Bay Area now. So still a Dodger fan. Sorry, everyone.
Oh.
Is that going to lose me some votes? But from the environmental end, I'm a climate action planner. I did it for the city, and now I do it for Marin County. So whether in my work or in my advocacy work, where I do a lot of parks and open space advocacy here in the city, it just bleeds through my entire everything. I think one of the challenges that I've seen, especially with legacy organizations, and I hope to bring to the table, is to bring younger and more people of color to the table. They are a big population here in the Bay Area. So I want to make sure they come to that table. And I think a lot of us at this age really honor community and want a sense of community. And I think you can weave that all in through all the actions that we do, especially through the Environment and Sierra Club. And I would venture to guess that those aging in place, those more in legacy who've been 20, 30 years would also like that as well. So I see a gap being bridged through our work, through intergenerational. Other than that, climate change, all about it. And my work also extends to rural Cambodia, where I do sustainable ag community development. And so that's where I get a lot of my community organizing in place. And lastly, it says in my statement is I do labor organizing, or I used to heavily before I got a child. And my work was to get a lot of the labor organizations in SF to divest from fossil fuels and the pension system. Still working on that from the from the outskirts. So that's who I am, and that's where I come from.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for being first of our group candidates. Okay, we're going to head north now, unless we don't have any other San Francisco group candidates that have signed in. Okay, head to Marin. I think we had 2 signed up, Holly and Pam, but Pam was ill. Is Holly here?
I don't see Holly.
Holly? No Holly?
No Holly.
Okay, okay. West Contra Costa, I don't think we have any candidates from there. Diablo, do we have John, right? John signed up, right?
He did sign up, but I don't see him on the Zoom.
Okay. Anybody else from Mount Diablo group? I don't see any raised hands here. Okay. Alrighty, going down the East Bay, and my geography is a little fuzzy because I'm in San Francisco, but I think the next one down would be Tri-Valley out there, right? Yeah, okay, who's here from Tri-Valley?
Carol Silva.
Carol.
Ah, hello, Carol, welcome. Glad to have you here, Carol. Tell us about yourself and why we should vote for you.
Okay, before my time starts, can I just verify, is it 1 minute or 2 minutes I get?
It's one.
It's 1? Oh, okay. I want to, one of my highest priorities is to protect the Earth's ecosystems and resources while reducing climate change. My goal is to help biodiversity and minimize impacts to wildlife corridors and nesting areas, minimize pollution, and assure the availability of resources, especially the precious commodity of clean drinking water. I also want to encourage Tri-Valley cities to provide incentives for distributed rooftop solar instead of using open space, and also to increase affordable housing with infill housing. In regards to trying to publicize Sierra Club and get more involvement in it, I think some of the reason is that when you're a Sierra Club member, you're making a donation, but you're not necessarily aware of the group meetings. And so I think notifying people, either using postcards to current members or having some of the active members attend events like festivals and introduce them and get their email contact and let them become aware of the meetings. I think that's important. And I guess my time is probably up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Carol.
Yes, but I think we'll have a little bit more time at the end because we don't have so many speakers, so you can say more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else here from Tri-Valley? Let's see, Marisol is a Tri-Valley person, but not running. Let's see. So we should go to SAC, right? That's Glenn and Matt, I believe, right? Okay.
That's right.
Who wants to go first? Glenn, I
Well-
see you on the screen there. So
I'll-
Glenn,
I'll
1
go ahead
minute.
and go- I'll go ahead and go first. I'm Glenn
Thank you.
Kirby. I have been around this organization for decades. Actually, I'm a senior citizen now, retired. I took a break from SAC for a while. Now I'm able to come back in and help, although I'm really interested in having the folks from my generation step back and let the younger generations move up. And I'm happy to say that there are some very good candidates in across the chapter this time, and in SAC as well. So I'm very encouraged to see the next generation of folks step up into leadership positions. I'm willing to be a mentor, so to speak. So in that regard, I'm happy to pass this on to Matt and others to give them a shot. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, Matt, take it away.
Hey, everybody. So Matt Turner here from the unincorporated area, and a lot of people don't know about us. This colored splotch behind me is the 4th largest city in Alameda County with no city government. And I worked for the Board of Supervisors for most of the last 10 years, doing community organizing here and as a constituent liaison for the unincorporated area. And one of the things that, it's invisible is that we have one of the lowest life expectancies in the county. And that red area behind me is my neighborhood, where outside of the Port of Oakland area, we were really suffering. So people see me and they assume that I'm a white guy from Castro Valley. So that what do I know about this? But I'm the only white guy in my household. I don't live alone, and most of the people in my neighborhood are not white. And one of the things we lack is access to parks, and they've closed down all of our schools. And environmental justice is a big deal down here. So fighting for the environmental justice in my community is one of the biggest issues for me. And to Glenn's point, exactly, we're a graying organization, as my beard's going. And you have to love something to fight for it. And for kids in our area, they don't even know, where the creeks are, or, how to access East Bay Regional Park districts or anything like that. And if we want to expand the future of this organization, we need to bring folks who have no connection to nature so that they can love it and fight for it as we have. And that's one of the big things I want to push for.
Great, thank you, Matt. I didn't know any of those things that you just told me. I learned a lot. Okay, so Glenn and Matt from SAC, and then that would be, our last one would be NAC, Northern Alameda County, right? We have Igor, and do we have, and Anna signed up, but is Anna here?
So
No.
Anna is also a school board director in Berkeley and had a PTA conference that she could not get out of. Donald Lothbury is giving a PDI training to our Alameda County Dem Party leadership as we speak, and unfortunately also can't make it because of that.
Well, we're darn happy you're here, Igor. So tell us about yourself and why you'd like to be elected again to the NAC XCOM.
Thank you so much. In the Jewish tradition, I'm a member of the tribe. There is a Talmudic proverb: you're not required to finish your work, yet neither are you permitted to desist from it. Organizing with the Sierra Club for the last 11 years has been the love of my life and the platform through which I'm able to, both in my volunteer capacity and professionally, to work on the related issues of saving the planet, saving solar in California from attacks by investor-owned utilities, saving my homeland of Ukraine, and saving democracy, including energy democracy. As the chair of the Northern Alameda County Group, we have worked extremely hard on a variety of intersectional issues, all related to justice, climate justice, transportation justice, housing justice. We are now continuing to fight the transport of coal in Oakland. There's another proposal. We have been working hard to endorse and elect candidates that are climate champions. I'll put the link in the chat for our endorsements. And I would love the opportunity to be able to serve you for another 2 years as we continue to do this work together and to go to spaces that in communities that traditionally have not been at the table, but on the menu, and changing the tables around so that they're at the center of the conversation. And in the words of Kendrick Lamar, we can sit down, be humble, and ask them how we can serve those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. Well spoken as always. I love that proverb. It gives me hope sometimes when I'm despairing. Let's see.
And Peggy, I'm a NAC candidate as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's speaking?
This is Nick. And sorry, I have my
Nick.
video. Yeah, sorry, I have my video off, and I apologize. I am in transit, but I'm being safe as I can. I've already spoken. I don't want to necessarily repeat myself, but I really like what Matt and Igor have just said. I think that reaching out to communities, youth communities and communities of color is really important to the club. And I think maybe we should be spending a lot of time attending their meetings and proactively reaching out to these communities so that we can be better partners in all this. And as Matt was saying, we are gray, and we need the youth, and we are many of us white, and we need people of color to be our partners, or else I worry for the future of our club. Plus, it's just the right thing to do. Diversity is everything. Diversity in nature, diversity in everything. So anyway, a little bit rambling, but that's my little pitch.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, I think, let me go back to my slides here. Oh, am I sharing my screen okay here? Everybody can see this? Oops.
I don't think it's sharing yet.
It is sharing?
No, it's not.
It's not sharing. Okay. Share screen. That one. Share. Slideshow. And voila.
Perfect.
Okay, so now good. The chapter bylaw amendments, just wanted to make a quick comment that on the ballot, along with the candidates, we have, each group and the chapter and the National Sierra Club have bylaws of how we operate together. And we periodically change them to do something hopefully better. So there are a couple of amendments that will be coming up, and we just wanted to give you an overview of those. We, from the Nominations and Elections Committee last year, kind of suggested that groups and the chapter look at the number of people on their XComs, look at how many signatures they might need for people who wanted to be up by petition versus by nominating committee, and also look at what was happening with appointments, because if there's empty seats and people get appointed, how long should somebody stay? So our recommendation from our committee was that if a seat is vacant on an executive committee, a person can be appointed by that executive committee, but that the person should serve only until the next election rather than for the full term vacated, which might be 2 years. So that was our recommendation. Chapter, Northern Alameda County, Southern Alameda County, and Marin are putting that on a change on their bylaws. Different groups decided to do different things. This is just something that's coming up. If you're in one of those groups or in the chapter, you'll see it. And then also, we did have a question for them as to how many for the groups and the chapter, how many petition signatures should be required of active verified members to qualify a person to be a petition candidate. And so those have been lowered. by Marin chapter and NAC, they're being proposed to the members that there will be fewer signatures required. So those are going to come up to you too to all of our voters in the election. Let's see. I guess I should say, any questions specifically on those bylaws before I move on to the little, we'll just kind of give our calendar and then we'll have more questions and comments and thoughts. Any hands up? Not yet. Okay. Okay, so how to vote. So tell all your friends. We were able to increase our turnout in voting last year in our Sierra Club Bay chapter elections to the whopping number of 2%, which was much, much, much bigger than the year before. But that is still not very big. So try to get everybody you know who's a Sierra Club member to vote. We do have 30,000 members, and voting is kind of not really heavy lifting, but maybe it's a gateway drug to then becoming more involved in the club. So send people to the website, tell them that you're a candidate, tell them, you know, all sorts of good things. The election will be open. We set the dates for being after the public election so that people would maybe have a little bit of a break, but before they got into some of the winter holidays things. So our elections will be open November 13th to December 11th. You will be getting a copy of our print Yodler, which will have a ballot in a printed ballot that you can send in. And then also you can vote online. And all that information will be coming out in many different ways. It'll be on the website and that kind of things too for people. Okay, and then the next meet and greet is on December 1st, and you can sign up just like you did before. It should be kind of interesting because that's going to be way farther, and who knows what people are going to be thinking by that time and might want to say to people. We haven't decided yet whether we should tape that one or we should have it be informal, however we're going to do that, but that's what we're thinking of doing, giving people, member voters, another chance to chat with their candidates. And then I wanted to say too that we have been encouraging all groups. We're the chapter elections committee, but we've been encouraging all groups to host their own meet and greets. And it's even possible that if you're a group, you might be able to do it in person. And isn't that a lovely thing to see people, as my colleague Martha Krieger says, in 3-dimension instead of 2-dimensional. So I think if you are a part of a group already and you want to suggest that to your group, that's a great thing to do a meet and greet that's there. Okay. All right. And then go back to this. Okay, stop share. Okay. All right. And then now we have some more time that we can have more questions, comments, thoughts, basically interaction among us that is about our Sierra Club, our Bay chapter, what we want to say to our leaders, which are all of you potentially, and all of us as member voters. I know that Brian had something he wanted to say. Brian, do you want to go first? And then Marisol, I know, did too. So.
No, I defer. I think a lot of the candidates sort of answered that already. No worries.
Oh, okay. Okay. Marisol, you had another thing to bring up? Something else?
Just actually a couple of things, but kind of because one of the things that I really worry about are certain neighborhoods, cities, and regions altogether, especially where I live in Contra Costa and the Tri-Valley, that are absolutely, you know, we acknowledge that there's a affordable housing shortage, but yet every time a project comes up, there's resistance to it for whatever reason. So what I would like to ask some of the candidates is, how can we tackle those issues without encountering that resistance? What would be a viable solution to bring more affordable housing to regions like the Tri-Valley and parts of Contra Costa and similar neighborhoods throughout the Bay Area? The second question I have is, how do we, when we talk about being more diverse, you know, it's not only about bringing people in, because, you know, I wonder how can we actually make people who represent who are legally legally protected group, how can we be ready to receive those groups here and make them feel welcome and safe here? Because I think that's a big problem, because we can't really bring people here without that. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody who wants to chime in, feel, raise up your hand.
Peggy,
look-
can I just jump in? I had my hand up a while ago because I wanted to ask if we ever sent, I know you said we have 2% voter participation, and I would like to see that raised as well. But have we ever sent out an email blast with all the candidate photos and information in it? I know that we put it on the website. I know that we send out emails about voting, but I wonder if that, people these days need to have something immediate in front of them. So I'll just put that out there as maybe something we can do to help with increase our voter participation. And then just really quickly as I can,
Thank you.
Marisol brought up some great questions, and how we receive these groups, how we receive diverse groups as welcoming as we can be. And this is a problem that the Sierra Club has, it's not being welcoming. And we've got a long road to do. I think we should, every cycle that we elect new people, we should have get-togethers where we talk about being welcoming and the importance of being welcoming. People coming to meetings should always be treated with great respect and kindness, so that they know they are valued and welcome at a meeting, for example. And then, and then the question about housing. I don't think we will be able to not have resistance to housing, because the problem is we've suppressed housing for so long and people are used to the way things are. But what we really need is change. We need housing. We need to house people at all affordability levels. So it's to me, it's just a continual. To me, the hardest part is talking to people who are resisting and finding out where they're coming from, why they resist, what they think will help, and trying to bring them in the fold and rather than trying to make them the enemy. And that's the hardest thing. It's really the hardest thing. And there's just no silver bullet. As a friend of mine said, as far as housing goes, there's not even silver buckshot. It's just such a complex problem. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Let's see, was Igor or Matt next?
Matt can go before me.
Okay, Matt.
So I remember when I think it was Carl Pope did the statement about some of the racist history of John Muir and owning up to some of the problematic attitudes that early founders of the Sierra Club had. And I remember a comment, and I can't remember what the group was from, but what they said was that words are good, but that there are lots of frontline environmental communities that are out there in our inner cities, in other parts of the country. But the Sierra Club, what they do is they suck up all the grant money. And what he said would be good for the Sierra Club to do, which is a difficult question because money's limited, but he said a good thing for the Sierra Club would be to put their money where their mouth is and go out and try to help support with funding some of these groups that are in the communities already that may need support, not just advice, but also money and to get seed money to get up on their feet. And that always stuck with me. And I think one thing that the Sierra Club should promote in terms of building alliances with underserved communities and bringing people into the Sierra Club through partnership is by setting up some kind of a grant program that money is set aside to go ahead and support these groups. And I'll find out who it was that put out that proposition, because I thought it was a really good idea. And I think funding is the big part of it. And apparently the Sierra Club is really good at writing grants and getting grants. So we like to spread that out. And much in the same way that the Sierra Club rules and and bylaws and all that can be hard for people who aren't plugged in to navigate. Same thing when it comes to accessing financial resources and grant money that's out there. So I think that's something that I would like to support at the, I don't know how we do it at the chapter, but I think it's something that I would promote from the chapter to national as something that I think would help build some of these alliances and bring people in, much as we're wanting to do. So, thank you. And sorry,
Matt.
I'm also trying to safely be in transit.
Oh dear, be careful.
So-
Okay, Igor, then Matt, then Glenn, then me.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent question. When I was first elected chapter chair as possibly the youngest chair and the first immigrant to be chair in modern history, that was the same year, unfortunately, that Trump was also elected. And there was a rally that the chapter showed up to big time in Oakland, and we had signs that said, Sierra Club stands with immigrants. And we received, I wouldn't characterize this as hate mail, but some members, longtime members that were upset about, as they identified it or characterized it, scope creep. So I wrote this article that I collaborated with other immigrants and descendants of immigrants within the Bay chapter's leadership at that time about why the Sierra Club stands with immigrants, because these are all intersectional issues. Why do we stand with labor? Why do we, the NAC became the first group. We're happy to say we're now not the last group. This is a chapter-wide position that we take in support of increases to the minimum wage, in the minimum wage towards a living wage. Why do we stand with frontline communities? Because these are all intersectional issues. And no longer can we say we as a club are going to go over here and work on conservation, and then someone else can work on energy justice, and someone else can work on housing, and someone else can work on transit. It doesn't work that way. The most important way that we can work towards being better allies with frontline communities, in my opinion and my experience, is to recognize and acknowledge the decades of harm that have been done by not just Sierra Club as an organization, but big green organizations, not intentionally, of course, but we have to acknowledge that harm was done. And it's going to take a very long time to rebuild that trust. And that's why I said in my statement, and I will repeat it, and that's how we've been able to actually work in collaboration with frontline communities on a variety of issues, to go to them, acknowledge the harm that was done, and work to try to be the best allies that we can be, or to strive towards allyship. Ultimately, we have a long ways to go, but I'm working towards making the Sierra Club an anti-racist organization. And that's how we are finally going to be able to be that safe space that folks who don't look like me will feel safe coming to. We have some work to do in our group, but we have come a long way in the last 10 years that I've been a part of it. We are looking forward to working with other groups here and across the chapter towards that common vision that I think we all share. Thank you.
Okay, let's try to keep these brief, okay? Let's see, Matt was next and then Glenn.
I'll try to keep my comments very brief. The housing issue is obviously one that's been very divisive for the club. It's sometimes at odds with what the mission is. Particularly in downtrodden neighborhoods where the land is relatively cheap, that becomes a place where people want to focus on putting in affordable housing in high density, not realizing that when there is no amenity and you increase density, we've learned nothing from the war on poverty with Chicago housing, developments where you concentrate poverty and despair, and places where you have no access to parks or open space or anything like that, or transit even. And so it bears looking at more closely about what it is that we're trying to achieve. What we have is an affordability crisis, not an inventory crisis. Alameda County net lost last year the entire city of Emeryville, and yet we're hell-bent on building every last scrap of land in neighborhoods where nobody has land, or they have no sidewalks even, and you're trying to build people up right next to the freeway where they're going to be choking on particulate matter and have no access to successful schools. That is not justice. That's feeding the beast on public housing that bellies up to the trough, and it doesn't actually lift people out of poverty. And coming from a neighborhood that is an SB 1000 environmental justice neighborhood, the people here are interested in justice and affordability, not destroying the neighborhoods that they live in. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind, that there are real solutions for the affordability crisis in terms of market regulation, high vacancy taxes, foreign and corporate transfer taxes, and rent control. We need those things.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Glenn.
Okay, thank you. Well, I wanted to go back to the earlier discussion about getting people out of their cars and getting on bicycles. Even though I'm a senior citizen, I'm still a very avid bike rider. I ride everywhere. I see Matt smiling. Matt's got a rig where he can take his rig and go shopping in it. I've got a trailer on the back of my bike, so I'm able to go leave my car at home and go do shopping. And I'm president of one of the bike clubs in the East Bay, and I'm also on a bike and ped advocacy committee for one of the cities. So it's very complex. One of the things that Marisol brought up is, having feeling safe when you're out on the road. I'm one of those guys who's out there riding right next to the cars. And I think it's important not to just plan bike facilities that treat bicycles more like pedestrians than motor vehicles. We need to be able to not just get around in our cities. We need to get between the cities. We need to get out and have parallel routes and have full access to the destinations that cars have access to, or otherwise people aren't going to choose to take their bikes. Of course, we need to feel safe. So all of those protected bike lanes are very important, and the separated bike lanes are very important that get people used to feeling comfortable riding a bike. But then we also need to be able to get out and get to longer distance destinations. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that with regard to all of these issues, climate action and housing strategies and bike and ped issues, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Oftentimes we're writing letters and advocating for positions in isolation, but the 4 counties in the chapter and all of the cities have climate action plans, and they have housing strategies, and they have bike and pedestrian plans. So what we need to do is actually get involved in our local communities and advocate for those to be implemented, to implement those plans. And when they come around for revision, be active in revising those plans. And I think that's where the strength is of the groups in the Sierra Club, is to actually have our feet on the ground with the cities and the counties and actually work to have the plans that are in place to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Well, it's kind of appropriate. I think we're running into the end of our time. And I had my hand up, so I'm going to say, kind of going back to what Matt had said about, grant money for other groups, perhaps, or sharing funds and stuff. There is, I know, I learned about a program within the National Sierra Club for chapters to get some of the money that is given to the larger organization. I guess what I think of listening to everybody is things are so complex. The building question is complex. The vehicle question is complex. I think someone asked about more bike lanes, and if the bike lanes are parked in, then they're not good to have bike lanes. If there's no enforcement, there's that kind of thing. I really hope that our chapters and groups will be invested in by all of us, and I think also at the National Sierra Club leadership, so that we can have really good conversations that are relevant to our areas, because we are a very, very diverse country. We're a very, very diverse Bay Area, and things are different in different places, but it only helps if we respectfully have conversations about them. And that's one of the reasons I think it's wonderful to have good competitive elections in our groups and in our chapter. Lots of people wanting to bring their ideas forward and sharing them with others, because that's how we do show openness and a thought for the future, I think. That's my comment. And I think we're done. I'm going to turn it back over to Scott.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining and for contributing. If you are watching this on the internet, thank you for watching. Please encourage your friends to stay tuned to the election. We will have another meet and greet. What's the date on that again? December
1st.
December 1st. Yeah, so we're doing another one of these a little closer to voting time. And yeah, please encourage your fellow Sierra Club members to tune into these elections, to vote, to be involved, and be sure to let them know what it's like to run, because we're going to do this again next year, and we keep needing awesome leaders like yourselves to keep putting in the time and effort to contribute. So thank you all. Thank you so much. And yeah, with that, I'm going to end the recording.